and we will put the link into the resources. I am going to right now send you in the chat box a copy of the resources. So you can go directly to this bit.ly that I am putting in the chat, and that will give you all the information. Also, the schedule of our upcoming webinars. So welcome everybody. My name is Corey Freed. I am the educational consultant for visual sound. And today's webinar is called It's a Small World. This is part one of a two-part series on virtual field trips. Today's virtual field trip workshop is on taking your students on field trips, where to find resources, all of that type of information. On Friday, we will be doing the second part of this webinar, which is allowing your students to create their own virtual field trips. And on Friday's workshop, we will talk about the different resources for building virtual field trips, how your students can do it from their home if they obviously can't get out to do live field trips and that type of thing. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to come off of mute. You could also put them in the chat box. If you would like to receive emails with the copy of the resources and other materials, please take a moment to type your email address into the chat box. This way I will have the records when we finish today's webinar so that I can send out those resources to you. So the first thing you might be asking is, what exactly is a virtual field trip? So a virtual field trip is any time that you obviously are not physically going somewhere, but you're bringing somewhere to you. And there are a couple of different options that you can use for these virtual field trips. So the main type of virtual field trip is obviously a virtual tour. These are what you are probably most used to. The most common one is Google Expeditions, which you obviously need your cardboard, your VR, all of that type of stuff in your classroom, but you can take your students on these virtual tours without leaving your classroom. You can't exactly do that remotely though, because your students might not all have Google Cardboards. It's sometimes more difficult for you to help navigate when you're trying to put one thing on the main screen and have your kids on their phones. So what are some other options? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So some other types of virtual field trips and virtual experiences are read-alouds. Many authors are currently advertising that they're going to be reading their own books. If you go on YouTube, you can find additional authors reading their own books. I will also show you today how you can stream another video into your webinar. So for example, if you have a virtual trip, you may invite all your students to the virtual trip if it's, for example, on a Google Meet or a Skype. But if, let's say, the Philadelphia Zoo is doing these live shows from their Facebook page, you're not going to tell all of your second graders to go to Facebook. So what you would do is you would personally go to Facebook and stream the zoo's video out to your students, kind of like a third-party stream. So I will show you how to do that as well today. Some other options for virtual field trips are guest speakers. I am going to show you some databases today where you can find many volunteers that like to do this. They like to virtually come into schools. We have scientists, we have astronauts. The ISS is actually a big one. They have done a few live streaming guest speaking engagements directly from above us at the ISS to your classroom. Collaborative activities. You can find other teachers. You have already a great resource right here of local teachers within the Pennsylvania tri-state area, but maybe you want your class to connect to a classroom in Europe or in Asia. I'm going to show you resources where you can put your own profile up. And again, you wouldn't be putting a lot of details. You would just say second grade class, Pennsylvania. That's about all the details you put to begin with. And you could find a classroom in Beijing or in London. So there's a lot of ways for you to connect, even if your students are not physically in your room. So we're going to start today with Skype. And now for those of you that don't know, Skype is part of Microsoft. So if you have Microsoft accounts in your school, you do already have Skype accounts, at least the teachers should. It might be turned off for the students. But Microsoft actually has a wonderful database. And that's why I said I was going to show you some databases, because this is one of the best ones I've seen where you can sort so many different ways. You can find those guest speakers. And the best part is it is going to automatically translate to your time zone. So if you list that you're in Pennsylvania, United States, when you look and it says like the person from Beijing is there at 3 a.m., it's not really their 3 a.m., it's your 3 a.m. So you don't have to start in your head trying to convert time zones and stuff. The website actually does do it all for you. So I'm going to come out of the full screen presentation for a moment, and I am going to take you to that Microsoft database to show you what Microsoft offers. So when we go, it is actually education.skype.com. That's the easiest thing about the website. It's just education.skype.com. And when you come in here, you will see that you have a little profile icon. So you can create your profile, but you can, without creating a profile, just search for activities in classrooms. So when you come into the search for activities in classrooms, right away, you're going to see there's a search bar on the top, but there is also a filter. And this filter is the best thing too, because I could say, I just want a guest speaker, and I can pick my subject area. So I want a guest speaker to come talk about language learning. And I teach elementary school. So obviously I don't want someone who's gearing toward 18-year-olds. I want someone maybe up to 8 years old. So I'll say like 5 to 8 years old. I only want a 1-day session, and I want to do it on Thursday for a half hour. So you come in and you sort all of these things in the filter, and also select your language as English, because they do have other languages. If you are a foreign language teacher, you can search for a Spanish speaking class so that your students can learn how to communicate in Spanish fluently. You can do American Sign Language. There's so many different options. So I just filtered this to language learning, guest speaker for elementary school. And this Rick Kamet, known for Egypt, is willing to help you. You click request the session. If you're not logged in, it's going to ask you to log in. So basically, when you hit request, you're emailing that person. On the Skype website, every person who's listed has, I don't want to say they've been completely vetted, because I don't think they've had like their clearances as if they were coming physically into your room. But Microsoft doesn't just allow anyone to create a profile. You have to reach out to Microsoft, tell them your expertise, tell them your experience, all of that type of stuff, before you can be posted in their database. So anyone listed is going to be someone of a higher caliber, and everyone who's listed is volunteering. There is no cost to these guest speakers. You can also find, when you go to these activities, zoos from around the world, aquariums from around the world, scientific labs. Right now, those scientists might be a little busy and not as available for doing virtual field trips, because they're probably researching vaccinations and cures and stuff, but they are up there during the normal school year. So that's one of the great things about Skype. If you see here, it says the classroom and the mystery Skype. That is where you can connect with those other classrooms. So your Pennsylvania classroom can find a California classroom or a Canadian classroom. And like I said, it is global. You could even find someone from Sydney, Australia. You just click in your language, your age group, and it will sort you down to all the available things. And then you can hit request. It's a safe way to email, because you're not giving your actual email address out. It all goes through the Skype database right here on the website. So all of Microsoft is on this one website. So all the virtual field trips, the guests, everything. However, when we want to go into the Google set of websites, it's going to be slightly different, because Google has a bunch of different opportunities for your students. Okay, someone just wrote, how would you do a mystery Skype or Skype a scientist via virtual learning with your students? So after you go on that database and you were to find like a scientist, for example, you reach out to them, you say, hi, I teach 4th grade in Pennsylvania. I would love to have you come talk to my students. This is what we're currently learning in science class. Are you available? And would you be interested? They would then email you back, tell you some stuff. You'd go back and forth between the teacher and the guest speaker, clear up all the details, schedule, and then they would come in. For your students, just like when you're doing a webinar, you would just invite your students into the call. If you are Microsoft, right now we are starting to transition from Skype to Teams. So you would probably do it as a team call, and those guest speakers, they're going to be able to flip back and forth. Most of them are very fluid within the Microsoft software enterprises. So they would come, they talk to your students, they might have some slides, they might have some pictures. If they're at a zoo, they might actually be in one of the exhibits with a camera talking live to your students with the animals behind them. It all depends on what type of scientist and what type of session you've done. So just to clarify, Mystery Skype and also Mystery Hangout, those are normally like 21 questions. So the person isn't going to come right out and tell your students, yes, this would work on Meet, George. However, there are different databases to find speakers for Google versus speakers for Microsoft because some work differently. I will be talking about Google in about 30 seconds, so we will get to Meet. And no, you can't just go to the site. It's a little bit different to find the scientists and to find the guest speakers. But just to finish what I was saying about Mystery Skype tends to be like 21 questions. So your students would log in with the scientist, and the scientist would just be like, hey, I'm a scientist. Try to figure out what my specialty is. And your kids would ask those yes or no questions and kind of narrow it down. So it gives it more of that, obviously, that interactiveness, and it also gives them a little bit of mystery and fun. And then the scientist, after they correctly guess, would start talking about something. If you're doing Mystery Skype between classrooms, you and your Pennsylvania classroom might be giving hints to the California classroom, like, hey, the Liberty Bell is in our city. And California might say, oh, actors and celebrities live here, or whatever. They would give each other clues, and they would try to narrow down where the other school is located. Obviously, you would never be giving a street address. You would probably stick to just the city or the region for safety reasons. So we're going to move into Google now. And the first part of Google we're going to look at is art and culture. If you haven't looked at the Google Art and Culture website before, it is pretty cool because it lets you do a lot of really interesting things. So let me drag this into our browser. And Google Art and Culture is a collaborative collection that Google started, but a lot of museums and historical landmarks and all of these other places have participated in it. So when you look at Google Art and Culture, you start to scroll down, and as you scroll down, you're going to see things like strike a pose about cartoons, explore art by color. But if you keep coming, you're going to start to see these virtual tours, 8 must-see locations of London for street art, 11 dramatic stages around the world, 10 locations for Jane Austen lovers. So these virtual tours have kind of been already designed by Google and by the people from the different theaters or the people from the historical landmarks of London or whatever group actually kind of keeps track of street art in London. I'm not sure what their group would be called. But when you click the explore, it's going to bring you 360 pictures. And as you can see, I'm the one on the website, but I am able to show this to you as my students. And you can come in here, you can talk about it. There is resources about it. As you can see, there's text. So you're not just showing your kids pictures, you're taking them into an experience. They're going to go from place to place, see all these different iconic locations, talk about the locations. What do you think is the difference in acoustics between this first theater and this next theater? I mean, if any of you have ever heard the joke about Carnegie Hall, it says that you can still hear that very first violin string because the way the building was designed, it's going to echo forever. So you can have these discussions with your students, showing them all of these lovely images. They are vivid. Look at the colors. It's beautiful. You go back to the home page. If you click explore, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Sorry. If you click explore, you can find 360 videos, street views of famous locations, historical figures. You can come here. Anyone know who that is? You can type it or you can come off mute.
Which one?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought my mouse was showing.
Oh, Churchill.
This one right here. Yes, this is Churchill. And if you haven't already watched The Crown on Netflix, they portray him very interestingly. But you can come here and look at Churchill, and when you click on him, it's going to actually bring you to different historical moments where he was pictured. Well, actually, it's going to bring you to a big database first. But if you were to click on Churchill within this database, it would bring you to tons of different things about Churchill. So it might bring you to pictures of him giving a speech or pictures of him at a state dinner, and it'll give you some information about where that picture was taken. So history teachers, this is a great way to take your kids on that tour of history where they might not, you can't physically go meet Churchill. He's no longer around, but you can take them on this virtual tour and see all these amazing things. So the next one I'm going to show you, we're leaving Google for a moment. We're going to go back to Google though, is NASA. So if you are a science teacher, a math teacher, any kind of teacher, even literacy, NASA has, I'd say about once a week, they're doing these live opportunities. Unfortunately, I could not find a full schedule. This is the next one. So this one is actually going to be on Thursday, April 16th at noon. This Nick Hagu and Janine Levitt will be talking live on NASA's website. So it says NASA TV and agency's website, but if you go to the link that I showed here, that just got covered by the Google Slides toolbar, but it is nasa.gov/STEM. You could also go on social media to hashtag NASA at home and find these schedules. So they're going to be live streaming, and obviously they're expecting, you could see I have 25 people in today's webinar, but they're going to probably have a couple of hundred people watching their live stream. So if your students were all in on the same exact call, you've seen what happens when one or two people forget to hit mute on their microphone. So what they're doing is, rather than just have it as an open Skype, Zoom, whatever type of call, it's going to be a one-way video. However, if your students, and if you teach elementary school kids who do not have social media, you as the teacher could tweet out your question to the astronaut and hashtag Ask NASA. They are going to be answering these questions live. So let's say you want to say to Nick, what happens when your nose itches while on a spacewalk? You could type, how do you scratch your nose in your spacesuit? Hashtag Ask NASA. And he might answer it in real time. I know that when I had my students watching some of these experiences in the past, it really makes them excited and giggly when they see the astronaut answer their question. Now, again, there are hundreds of kids watching these live streams, so it isn't always going to be your questions that are answered, but when it is, it's a great experience for the kids. And it also shows them that, these scientists are taking time out of their day to help encourage that next generation. So again, they do advertise them on NASA's website. However, I could not find a schedule. I was only able to find the next opportunity, which is tomorrow. So it might be a little last minute to get your students on it, but feel free to share that one with them. So now we're going to go back to Google and we're going to look at Google Earth. If you've never looked at Google Earth before, it is a higher depth Google Maps. And what's really cool about Google Earth is they do actually have an education website. So I am going to pull this one into our list of links right now. And all of these links are on our resource page. So I'm going to type that resource page back into the text box again. That way, if you missed it the first time, you have the links. So Google Earth is a 360 satellite using version of Google Maps. It is super cool because what will happen is you can start by looking at the blue marble of Earth and you start zooming in, and Google has all of these satellite images and they have all the way back to the 1980s, and you can see different locations. If you look at that slideshow I have a GIF made that shows Philadelphia from 1984 to 2018, one picture per year. And you could talk to your students about engineering and civical changes and all of these type of things. If you were to, like I said, this is zoomed into Philadelphia. If you were to zoom into, for example, the Arctic Circle, you could talk to your students about the melting polar caps and the changes in the natural environment. So these satellite images are so powerful to helping your students. When you go back again to that Google website, if you click this More Tools, this is where you can find those links. On Friday, when we talk about building our own field trips or letting your students build field trips, we will be talking about this tour builder and my maps. But if I scroll down, this is where I can find all of this stuff. The Google Earth engine is where you get those time-lapse pictures. Scroll back up a little more, we have the Google Earth itself. Just to show you on Google Earth, like I said, you start with the big marble of Earth. And now there are different versions of Google Earth. This one right now that I'm showing you is the web browser. There is an app. There is they call it Earth Pro, which is a downloadable program for your Macs and PCs. But I wanted to take you in through the browser because, for example, if your students are on Chromebooks, this is how they're going to access it, is through the browser. It will take a minute to load. Unfortunately, it has so many pictures and high-depth images. It is a slower website loading. So I will come back to the website in a moment and hopefully it'll have been loaded. But again, this is the education website for Google Earth. And it has the Explore Earth inspiration resources. If you're not even really sure where to start with taking your students on an experience, go to those resources. And it even says beginners to gurus. There's something for everything. And this is similar to the Skype search engine. However, this one is not going to find you real people. This is just going to find you tours and experiences that are pre-designed. So you can come here to the tools and say, okay, I want to use Street View or I want to use Google Earth. You pick your category. I want a classroom activity. I want a Voyager. Voyagers are something I was going to talk about next within Google Earth. Voyager is those virtual tours where they will actually take you through things. It has step-by-step, click this first, talk to your students about this, click this next, talk to your students about that. So again, Google has tried to help make everything, as you can see, the website is still loading. Preload this for your students. I apologize that mine was not preloaded for you. I accidentally closed the browser before the webinar started. Yes, I hear a microphone come off. Question? Okay. I thought I heard someone come off microphone. You are more than welcome to come ask questions. You can type them, come off mute. I will stop if I see something and try to answer it. And at the end of in about 5 minutes, I will actually open up to Q&A as well. All right. So it is still loading. Where is this slide? When you say this slide, what are you referring to? This slide here or Google Earth? Oh, the one with the resources. All the resources are on that Google Doc that I linked. It is the link that says bit.ly. And when you scroll down, oh, are you talking about the Google Earth one specifically? I apologize, George. Okay, so it is
right there.
I have this link is on the resource page that I created. So if you go to the bit.ly and you go down to virtual tours, you can get to the Google Earth education page. And then it is just the tab labeled resources.
Oh, this is the front page.
This is the front page of Google Earth for Education.
Thank you.
Yes. And you can also go directly to earth.google.com if you are just going into and look at that, it loaded as I was talking. So this is Google Earth, and I'm going to skip past the tutorial right now. So as you can see, when you log in, you have the entire Earth. It is live weather up here, people. So these clouds, these are the live weather satellite feeds that are coming in. You could see down on the bottom, it tells you this is coming from NOAA and US Navy, all of these great resources. So let's say I want to just show you a Voyager quickly. I click Voyager and it's showing me to pick stuff. I can pick games. If you are a Carmen Sandiego fan, Carmen Sandiego is built into Google Earth now. It is a really fun game to play with your kids. You can go to education, culture, find these Voyagers, and as you can see in this example, the geometry of sustainable architect. When you go through that Voyager, it will take you to different cities around the world and show you the buildings. It'll talk about stability for earthquakes and all of that type of stuff. In Google Earth itself, I can click on this magnifying glass and I am going to type in, I'm just going to be a little lazy and type in Philadelphia. And you will see that when I type Philadelphia, it zooms in. And it comes all the way in from that big blue marble directly to Philadelphia, and it gives you information. You can zoom in even farther. And as you zoom in even farther, you can see all of these satellite details of Philadelphia. So that is something you can do with your students. You can bookmark stuff so that way you can get back to it faster next time if you wanted to pre-plan a field trip for your students about specific landmarks in your region. So the last thing I'm going to show you before opening it up to questions is check with your local museums and zoos. As you can see right here, I have a screenshot from the Philadelphia Zoo's Twitter. Every day from Monday to Friday at 2 p.m., the Philadelphia Zoo is doing live streaming sessions from a different exhibit. So obviously the zoo is closed, but they still have to keep the animals safe. So they do have a skeleton crew. And as they're feeding the animals and making sure their animals are being taken care of, they are live streaming at 2 p.m. every day from a different exhibit. So you can follow their Twitter, follow their Facebook to find out like which exhibit they're going to be in that day. So that way you can plan for your students and say, hey guys, on Thursday at 2 p.m., I want the entire class to come log in together. And this way we can talk about it as we're watching. Since this one is streamed on Facebook, this is one of those examples I was talking about where you would want to stream it yourself and show it to your students. If you are on Skype, Teams, or Zoom, it is super easy to do that because you can use your computer's internal speakers. If you are on Google Meet, there is a workaround for how to get the sound from the video you're streaming to your students. And that would be to use your microphone in front of your speaker. Be super careful when you're doing this because obviously you could get that echo feedback, but unfortunately Google Meet does not allow your computer's internal speakers to play that sound. But the same way that I was showing you Google Maps and all of those, you can show these live streams through screen sharing with your students. The other tweet I have as an example is the National Aquarium in Baltimore. They are also doing these live activities for your students at any given time. So I am going to open up the floor to questions now. It is 9:58. I did go a little bit over in terms of how much I wanted to talk before opening it up to Q&A, but I will hang around for Q&A if you have questions. I am not going to just leave you empty-handed. So you may come off of mute, or you are more than welcome to type your questions in the chat if you don't want to talk. Again, Friday is going to be the second part of today's webinar, and on Friday we will be talking about how to build your own field trips and how to have your students building those field trips. Instead of just being a passive viewer, you will be the active creator. So Friday is when you will be learning about creating these field trips for you and your students. If you haven't already, please leave your email address in the text box. That way we can send you these resources after the webinar is over, along with the recording of today's webinar.
Did you see my question in the chat?
The mystery Skype question?
No, my principal sent a message saying there were esports, and it says it on here. Where are those?
Oh, so I apologize. My text didn't go down as people were typing below. So the esports workshops, we don't currently have any scheduled at this point. We are scheduling them. Our esports director, Roger, has been working on that, and we are hoping to put them in possibly Thursday of this week. Most likely it will be next week, but we will be sending out that schedule the same way that we're sending out the education workshops. And we want to help your schools to remotely kind of set up some esport tournaments with your students, so that way, while you're not currently with your students, you can still be connecting with them, doing something social that they enjoy, and also kind of helping to build that teamwork, that camaraderie. And this way, when you get back to school in September, you can even start an esports team and go to competitions. There are scholarships involved with esports. There's a lot of amazing stuff. So like I said, our esports director, Roger, will be setting up those webinars, and I don't have an exact schedule right now, but they will be emailed out to anyone on the mailing list, and they will be tweeted and LinkedIn and all that social media as well.
Okay, thank you.
You are very welcome. What time on Friday? That is a good question. I apologize for not knowing my schedule memorized, but I can pull that up for you. It is on my calendar. So on Friday, the session is going to be at 12:15 p.m. So it is 12:15 to 12:45. I will be opening up the Google Meet at 12 o'clock. So I kind of come in 15 minutes ahead of time so that way I can admit people into the webinar. As you saw today, it said that someone had to let you in. That's because you are outside of my domain. And that's why at 12 o'clock, I will start letting people in. At 12:15, I will hit the record button and start doing the actual webinar. Any other questions about virtual field trips or anything that visual sound can do for you? Again, we appreciate your time. Thank you for coming today to our webinar. This will be uploaded to YouTube later today, and the link, if you don't already have it, we will send it out again. But on the very bottom of our resource page, so this bottom link, the one that says schedule of upcoming webinars, there is a little button that says view archive webinars, and that will take you to the YouTube playlist of all the previous webinars that we have hosted. I will stick around a few more minutes if anyone has questions, but I am going to end the recording at this time.